looking at numbers. I have a great deal of respect for what Swiss Ramble does on Twitter. The guy's a financial wizard.
Yeah.
We have tried to get him on the podcast. He says he doesn't do podcasts. Maybe someday we'll break through on it. So I did a little bit of Yank Ramble.
Jewish Ramble,
Yank Ramble. I did all that. I'm going to try to do this screen share thing. I don't know if you can see this or not. This is the.
We both leaned in, which means no.
Yeah.
Mike,
so when I'm talking, you can see this then?
If you're going to screen share it, lock it on your screen so then so it doesn't go to me and
there we go.
Turkish. There we go. Yeah.
Okay.
Zoom into it a bit as well and scroll down as we see it. So
this is the.
This is the same thing that happens with Mike's love life. Everyone has to zoom in.
All right. Yeah, I don't think I can make it any bigger here, but which is another thing that I say.
You know the magnifying glass in the bottom left.
Yeah, I'm not seeing the same thing that you are on. I have a different module.
No. So you don't have that blue little circle
in the middle.
No, and I don't want to take 15 minutes of the podcast trying to figure it out. Anyway, this chart is what everybody's up in arms about, and the chart is basically having to do with the fact that Arsenal's got 100% of the green. Manchester City is 90% owner funded, according to this chart. Liverpool, 40% owner funded, according to this chart. But what some people aren't realizing about this chart is, first of all, they're saying it just shows that Kroenke hasn't put a dime into the club. Okay. This chart is from 2008 to 2017. It's a 10-year period of time that spans 3 eras. One era is pre-financial fair play and before Man City even was sold to the Qatari group, or the Emirates group. 2011 or 2000. Well, no, that was 2008 to 2013. Then the 2013 is when financial fair play really kicked in, and the rules changed a lot. Another thing that wasn't the case in 2008 was that Arsenal was not 100% owned by Stan Kroenke. Arsenal wasn't even 66% owned by Stan Kroenke yet until about 2011. So, what was different about us than Manchester City, what was different about us than Manchester United with the Glazers ownership, which has its own issues, what was different about us than even Liverpool, who went from Hicks and Gillette to the FSG group, is the fact that we had no one that was 100% responsible and 100% liable and 100% going to benefit from the fruits of whatever was done to make changes. So, even as 66% owner of the club.
When did he become 66% owner? What year?
I think about April of 2011.
Yep.
I think that's when the shares from Bracewell Smith. I mean, I'm not the student of the history that you are, but I've done some research lately.
Yeah, Hillwood leaned on them. Hillwood is the first.
Right.
So Hillwood leaned on them to sell the shares, but yeah, sorry.
So ultimately, he became majority owner in 2011, 2012, and full owner less than a year ago. So when you own 66% of something, to put your own personal money from outside the company into the club, and receive only 66% of the advantages of that back is not as easy as you might think. A majority owner can make decisions, but if you make decisions where you're 100% liable and 66% beneficial of it, it's not that simple. The second thing that this doesn't show, again, this wasn't what was intended to show, is when this investment from owners happened. With Manchester City, and there's, let me see if I've got source of funds, Manchester City cash flow. If you look at these numbers here, right there, are you able to see my cursor?
Just about. Where is it? Yeah.
If you can't read the numbers because they're too small, it's basically saying each year, here's how much the owners threw in between loans and share capital, issuing new equity.
Yep.
From 2009 to 2013, which is when financial fair play really kicked in, $1 billion out of their $1.25 billion that the chart shows came in those years. So all of this red in Manchester City's area here was done between 2008 and 2013.
Yeah.
They took advantage smartly and legally of rules that didn't exist yet, saw the fact that they were coming, and made a tremendous amount of investment of their own money to prop up the revenues of the team by making them a perennial championship contender, champions, to try to win the Champions League, which they've still yet to do, and it's paid off. But from 2013 on, they've been virtually completely self-sustaining. Manchester City has been virtually completely self-sustaining. The amount of money that they've spent on players in the past 4 or 5 seasons is somewhere like 280 million net spend, and the amount that they've earned from revenues is something like 247. So Manchester City is not just, as large players as they have, they're doing that now because they're playing in a revenue field where the revenues are a lot higher because of what they did back in 2008. During those years, why didn't we think of that? Well, we didn't have one owner. Kroenke owned 9.9% of the club. We were paying off incredible amounts of stadium debt, having just made the improvements that needed to be made to infrastructure.
Kroenke went from 9.9% to 30% of 33% or something like that, right?
Yeah, the 33%, the 29.9, which was the limit without having to make that was, I think, 2011 actually, and then I forget when he went to 60 something percent, but
that's when he was the majority owner.
Yeah. So again, we were one of the only top 6 clubs at the time that had multiple owners, had owners that whose lineage traces back many generations through marriage and through otherwise. Nina Brace, Will Smith, and again, I'm a little over my head when I talk about the detailed history of the ownership, but it is very fractured until Kroenke ended up taking over, for better or for worse. But to expect a lot of owner investment during that time when we never had it before is bad timing. When everyone was gearing up, when Man City was gearing up for financial fair play, when Chelsea was gearing up for financial fair play and spending their own money, we didn't have the ability to do that because we had just improved the infrastructure. Liverpool, and I'll wrap this all up together. Liverpool, 40% funded by ownership. Well, when did that happen? A lot of it happened with the previous ownership group, and then when FSG came into the club, they paid off. Well, the one thing that they did was paid off a lot of the debt that Hicks and Gillette had accrued to leverage the club, turned it into equity, and invested it in the infrastructure of the club. An increase in people that can come to Anfield, in seats, an improvement in the
business nows, basically. They've shown business nows. Man City showed business nows by completing all them deals before, and Liverpool have done the same there.
They showed both business nows and they also showed financial willingness to lay out tons more than they were getting back in the hopes that it would make for a better system later on, and it paid off. Liverpool did not do that. Liverpool spent money on infrastructure that we didn't need since we spent the money on Emirates already, and had I almost said Carrington, had Colney and all those things, and so you can see here in this chart, the capital expenditures are 32%. Only 56% was going to player purchases. Guys, guess what? Liverpool has a self-sustaining model too.
Yeah.
Their owners, especially the new owners, in the time where they've gone from being missing Europe altogether to being where they are now on the verge of league champions and champions of Europe, they have spent less money on players than we have over the same 4 or 5 year period of time.
Yeah.
And so, again, here's 3 different areas. This is the before financial fair play, 03 to 07. These are the Chelsea years where Abramovich was just racking up near $1 billion of debt to buy every player that he wanted to have as his toy. Here's the pre-FFP years. This is Man City.
And
right
the red sections are never big.
The red section is Arsenal. And in those years, this is where we were selling Van Persie. We were selling Adebayor. We were selling Fabregas. And frankly, we were selling a lot of those players to these guys. And here you have Chelsea still loading up on players, but starting to slow down.
Yeah.
Here's the financial fair player. You got Manchester City going all the way from this huge pile to being about level with Manchester United, which is in purple.
Yep.
And then you've got Chelsea in blue, Liverpool in gold. There's a little sliver for Tottenham in green in between us and Liverpool, which you can barely even see because, as we know, they've had almost no net spend for 5 years.
Yeah.
And then us at the top. Liverpool hasn't outspent us. Tottenham has underspent us. Chelsea has not outspent us. The difference is 100% in the management of the club, in the decisions that have been made, in the fact that we have had 30 players that we've signed for more than £1 million in the last 12 years and have let 17 of them go for free.
Yep.
And only 5 of them for a profit. The other 8 for a loss. It is insane, the mismanagement that has happened at the footballing level at Arsenal over the past 5 or 6 years. And I blame Kroenke for letting it happen for too long, but sometimes it takes years of seeing the final impact of your decisions to realize that it's too late. And for that, I blame him, and for that, I expect him to finally turn it around. And I have faith in Josh to do that. But it's like everyone just wants to forgive or overlook, or just has moved on because they're no longer with the club and have just decided to throw all their might at Stan Kroenke for not spending money. And it's just that Turkish is I think an ignorant and lazy approach to have. And I'm not saying that you have that.
No, I understand that.
Not at all. I'm just saying that's what riles me up, is because people just equate money and budgets and transfer kitties and all this stuff. And it isn't about that. It's about figuring out how to run.
It's partly about that. It's partly about that.
Fair.
Partly about that. Because we agree, we blame the last 4 and 5 years, the blame of Kroenke is because he was naive. He left people in charge that were inept and caused this melee that we're in right now. But the previous 5 years prior to that, so we're talking 2009 to 2014, Usmanov was 30% owner of this club, and he wouldn't allow him on the board. He wouldn't allow him because of a conflict of, it wasn't even interest, because how can it be a conflict of interest if Kroenke allows Usmanov onto the board and Usmanov pumps in 100 mil, 200 mil into the club? That's not out of Kroenke's pocket. We now go on to win the league or Champions League in the next 2 years. The profit, most of it goes to Kroenke because he's still a higher share owner than Usmanov. So them times he was very selfish and all about himself. So although I don't blame him entirely for the mismanagement that's happened to lead us to where we are now, the man has shown traits that I don't want associated to Arsenal Football Club anymore. Now Josh Kroenke is another. He's a completely separate argument.
Yeah, let's get to your views on Josh, because.
So I just want to interject. This is where I disagree with Turkish. I completely blame Stan for 100% of this, because any good CEO or owner of a business should know monthly, quarterly where their club is at and why there's failings. And so for me, as I said on the top, the naive nature of how he's run this club has been the problem, because
he bought what Arsene was selling hook, line, and sinker,
and he never bought it hook, line, and sinker, and he kept getting fed bullshit after bullshit after bullshit, and we all did. Now, who's actually running this club at this point? Because I don't think it's Stan. I think it's Josh.
Tell us. That's all we want to know. We
exactly.
want to know what's going on in the club. And we wanted to know last year, ideally. A manager change wasn't going to be the be-all and end-all. It wasn't going to, if they thought it's going to flick all the fans' minds back onto Arsenal and full-on support, blind support, then no, it's not, because the patience is wearing thin, because it's one mistake after the other from Kroenke. I do hold him 100% to blame. There's people under him to blame as well, Wenger and Gazidis, who he's left in charge. But again, he is 100% to blame because he makes these decisions. With Usmanov, he made the decision not to allow him on. That was prior to the 2014 and 2013. If he had more business, he's meant to be such a businessman. Same thing with Wenger. Everyone was telling me he done economics, he's this and that. Look what he done to our club. We are not a good business. Chelsea and Tottenham will have more fans than Arsenal in about 10 to 20 years, because all these people growing up around London now growing up around England now, if they're going to support a team in London, I'll be honest, it's not going to be Arsenal. And it hasn't been Arsenal for the past 8 to 10 years. Tottenham and Chelsea are gaining fans. Yes, they're not close to us yet. But if it continues going this way and they continue to put off hardcore supporters of the club like myself and like others who will stop going. I know so many older people that have stopped going. And they just talk to me online and say, like, enough, they had enough. But they don't have the energy to fight it. And do I think the protest is going to change anything? No. This protest on Monday will not change a damn thing, but hopefully we can build on it come Newcastle away. Because if nothing gets done, or if the acquisitions and the sales that get done between kit launch and the first game of the season is not adequate enough, is not the name, like you said, in Carrasco or Zaha, then from game one next season, we have to put pressure on. I know it's not going to look good on the TV. I know people are going to say it's embarrassing us. But Arsenal Football Club have embarrassed themselves over the last 10 years. They've embarrassed me. Arsenal Football Club have embarrassed me. And some fans have the cheek to say, I'm embarrassing them.
I think that, in the past, we've seen protests that I think were completely driven out of, I'm going to lead this so I can get Twitter followers. I think Turkish, I listened to some of your YouTube videos yesterday, and I agree with you. There is no other time.
Andy was cramming for the final exam.
I love when you're like, "What do I do? Just walk around London with a banner? Like, what do I do?" So I completely agree. I think tomorrow or on Monday, it's the best possible time, and I think that you, instead of doing it for the reason of like, well, this is going to gain me followers, you're doing it for like, just be real with us. Like we want exposure, we want clarity.
I don't want to do this. I've never I've never led a protest. I'm going to go there on Monday morning and learn as I go on what to do, because I haven't done it.
Do you have an idea of how many people are going? Like, what are you anticipating and expecting? I don't mean to pitch on this.
I can't say for sure. Roughly, I'm going to say that a minimum of probably 40 to 50 people have confirmed. I'm not sure who else they're going to.
Are you going to the Armory?
Yeah, the roundabout opposite the Armory.
Yeah.
I plan to set up there. Ideally, I plan to set up there. My big banner didn't come in. It's not ready in time, but I'll have little A4, A3 posters. All I want to read.
Did you order the plane?
Pardon?
Did you order the airplane?
Unless the plane is taking me away from North London right now. Nah. Please, no. But I'm going to learn as I go. It shouldn't. I keep on saying it shouldn't be me, because I feel like other people are in better positions to do this, because
Well, be aware that you're gonna, and you don't need me to tell you this. You're probably gonna catch more flack than you will gain support, at least initially. If you believe strongly enough in it, I have never been, and this goes for the marches last year, one of which never formulated. I was standing there on Avenel Road or Gillespie Road, kind of waiting to see it as it went by, and it never happened. But that's Mark's fault. He can't organize shit. But even if I disagree with the protest, I don't disagree with the people having a right to do it and speaking their mind about it. I am all about.
I think there's a big difference too between Arson out and Kroenke out, because a lot of people, even towards the end of Arson's tenure, respected the man for everything he did and kind of got into that like, well, I don't like what he's doing, but
no one can say at least honor what Kroenke did for the first 10 years he was here.
Right, exactly.
There is that concept. So I
want to add a point to what Turkish said earlier.
We got to go to user questions, and we're about to this podcast is about to become a lot less hairy.
There, a few years ago, just to his point about Chelsea and other teams overtaking us, there's a reason why Fly Emirates dropped Chelsea as a sponsor and went over to Arsenal, because our global brand was a lot bigger.
Yeah.
And they pumped a lot of money into coming to us. Oh my God, it's Dobby. We just don't want to fall into that position. You know what I'm saying? Like
like I said, you know what? I agree with you. And like I said, on Monday, I'm making sure everyone knows this is not about violence. This is not about causing a disturbance. This is about raising awareness, first and foremost. I want to go to the people that's queuing up in the kits, and I want to ask them, do you know where this money is going to? Why are you actually spending this money at Arsenal Football Club? Why don't you wait and see? I want to start raising awareness about it. I don't want to embarrass anyone. I don't want to embarrass the club. That's far from my agenda here. My agenda is bring Arsenal Football Club back. Like, I'd give all this up for Arsenal Football Club to be back. I don't want to lead a protest. I don't want a YouTube channel. I don't want to be flipping on Arsenal Fan TV every week. I want to enjoy football again. I want to enjoy and have hope and see my team show ambition. We have no divine right to win the league. 4 or 5 teams spend enough money to win that one Premier League trophy. We have no divine right. But as fans of one of the biggest brands in world football, we have the right for our club to show ambition by buying players, by fixing the mess that Wenger and Gazidis left us in structurally. In a year, we've lost one of the best scouts in Europe. So shit hasn't really changed, because in the last 5 weeks, we ain't done fuck all in the transfer window either. So me waiting is, I've been waiting a whole lot. Like I said before Lee came on, I watched AFTV for 4 years. I didn't go on it because Lee was saying exactly what Claude was saying, exactly what I would. Truth was saying exactly what I would. But in the end, we've all ended up coming on AFTV because it didn't seem like it's enough, and it's still not enough. We're still not unified. People are still telling me either wait or you're going to embarrass us, or I feel embarrassed anyway. I've been waiting anyway. Enough is enough.
So you should just go there. Just go there nude. I mean, if it's just about not caring about being embarrassed, then I mean, just go nude, and it'll be like, don't buy clothes,
That's it.
don't buy kits, just be nude.